Hi there guys, welcome back to Antiquated Builds. So today we're going to be building a Roman temple, and this is going to be a small Roman temple, so it's more of a tetrastyle. So tetrastyles would have 4 columns at the front. And yeah, so we're going to get into it. Really hope you guys enjoy. We're going to go step by step. And yeah, so we've got an area of 19 blocks by 14, so it's a large rectangle area. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a small base. So for this video I'm going to be making it quite hollow, so it doesn't use as much materials. But we're going to go 3 to the edge with polished diorite, and then we're going to put some stairs in. And this is going to be the base to the temple. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking polished diorite and I'm taking that around the edge. And I'm only going to be going 2 in because I mean, you can fill the whole thing in. I don't think it's necessary. Nothing's going to be down there, so you may as well just leave it hollow. But I'm going to make it 2 wide just so it's easier to place things in that little gap. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next bit, so we're going to just extend the stairs up with our granite and polished diorite. And then what we're going to do is we're going to basically take, so on the sides here we want to have like a nice overhang. But first we're going to be doing just filling in the edges at the back and the sides. So typical to Roman temples, these would have been built on these pedestals. And here I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing with this. And then we're going to fill in this little corner here with just normal diorite. And then here we're going to take some upside down polished diorite stairs. And that's going to make this like overhang detail sort of thing that you see on a lot of these bases for the Roman temples that have survived to the modern day. Now for the base, for the portico at the front, I mean, I'm really just going to be placing polished diorite and normal diorite in a bit of a random grid-like pattern. I mean, this is really up to you. I'm kind of just testing out a couple of things here, so I'm going to try and do it aligned with the columns. But you could really do it as like, you know, black and white. You know, you can see lots of examples of different mosaic patterns that were used in the porticos of a Roman temple. But here I'm just doing a bit of a boring one, so it's a little bit easier to follow in this video. And there we have the front of the portico. So that's where we're going to be placing our first columns. That's going to be the entrance to our temple. And then the bit to the back is where we're basically going to be placing the inner sanctuary of the temple, basically. And how we're going to do this is we're basically going to take some chiseled quartz blocks and we're going to fill this in pretty much. I mean, you could fill this in totally with chiseled quartz blocks. I'm going to add a little bit of a pattern along here. So I'm just going to take some granite and some polished granite, and we're going to make a little bit of a grid pattern like we did out in the front portico. But really, these patterns are up to you. I mean, you can do any pattern you want. It might be easier to, once we've done all the outside, to then come back inside and do a pattern of your own. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to be doing a very, very simple pattern like this. And there we have it. So we have the main base of the temple. And this is as big as it's going to get, width and lengthwise. So you can start building things around it. So what we're first going to do is we're going to first take some anvils, and these are going to be the bases for like our fire pits or fire cauldrons. And then we're going to start laying out our columns. So this is a tetrastyle. So tetrastyles would have 4 columns at the front. So typically you would see temples that would be hexastyles, octastyles and tetrastyles. So this is a tetrastyle with 4 at the front. And you'll see at the front we've got the portico, we've got the cella, which is like the inner sanctum of the temple where the statue would have been held, and where the main like worshipping practices would have been held as well. Now for the base, we're going to be using some bone blocks, and we're just going to be filling this in. And a typical thing that is characteristic of Roman temples are engaged columns. So a big difference between, there are lots of differences between Greek and Roman temples. One of the most characteristic ones is the use of engaged columns. So in this, for the cella, we've got 4 engaged columns. So these red bits here that we're using with the red terracotta, those are engaged columns, so they're engaged into the wall. And then here we're going to be taking some white concrete. Now in this design, I'm not going to be using many windows. I'm going to use a big back window, but the sides I'm going to have windows. Really depends. But as Roman temples were built around the architecture that was around them, you can add windows really where you like. So we're going to take quartz pillars and we're going to go 5 up. And for this temple, we're going to be using Corinthian columns. So if you know anything about classical history, classical architecture, you'll know about column orders, but the most typically used one by the Romans was the Corinthian columns. And that's what we're going to be doing here, with both the engaged columns and then the 4 columns at the front for the portico. We're just going to take some more concrete. And you could use a single material. I like using a mix of different whites and like creamy colours, so it's got a bit of extra depth. We're going to leave a window at the back there. And same here. And then at the front we're going to start making our door frame with then a quartz stripe along the sides. And this design in particular is inspired by a lot of the temples done by the Annihilator 2 on Planet Minecraft. They do some really cool classical builds as well. So typically you find, you know, these things are quite difficult to design because of the proportions. So, you know, this is probably the best that, you know, I've taken a lot of inspiration from how they do it. And here we're just going to be building the adorned bit on top of the doorway, the architrave. And then we're going to fill in the rest of it with bone blocks, which adds again this like nice plastery texture. Like so. Now for the back, we're going to be leaving again our window. So that window is going to help us get some light inside. You could leave the window out if you've got like a building to the back. And we're just going to fill it in like so. So we've got a nice, decent sized window, and we're going to fill this in with fences later. Now on top of all your quartz pillars, you're going to place some basalt. So the polished basalt that looks a bit like columns. As I just fill in this that I forgot to fill in. And then in between that basalt, we're going to take chiseled sandstone. So as I was doing before, take some chiseled sandstone, place that along the top, in between the gaps. And that adds like a nice patterned texture. So these buildings would have had some like nice patterns in the walls and whatever, and you can't really do that much in Minecraft with it, but chiseled sandstone gives a quite nice look to it. So here I'm going to use tripwire hooks, and I'm going to do this to try and, you know, this is probably the best way that you can try and replicate Corinthian columns at this scale. Obviously at bigger scales you can probably do a bit more, but this is probably the best you can do. Just with tripwire hooks, very, very simple, looks very good, and gets the nice like leaf-like texture sculpture that you get on the Corinthian columns. And now for the last bit of this step, we're going to take some birch planks, and we're going to run this all the way on top of all the columns and on top of the walls. And that's going to finish off this step and this particular part of this building. And as you can see it on the inside. You get a nice tall room. Now for our next bit, we're going to take a coloured block. And you can use really any nice coloured block. The warp, something like that, I don't know. I quite like the dark prismarine because it gives a different colour. And you're going to take this and you're going to put this on top of your birch planks. Now you're not going to see this whole stripe because it's going to be hidden by a detail that is hanging under the roof. And where the columns end, you're going to place some empty mangrove signs on top. And it just adds a little bit of extra texture. And then we're going to take some oak buttons. So just fill in the rest of it, oak buttons. So it's a slightly different colour. And that is going to come all the way along here. Now this could be made more complicated as well. I mean, you could use like different, you know, heads or whatever, but that's too complicated. Now, in the ceiling, you often see in Roman temples and Greek temples as well. Obviously, the Roman temples are very based off of Greek temples. In the ceiling, you'd have like a square checkered pattern sort of thing. I'm going to show something that comes up on screen of something in France. That is kind of the thing that I'm trying to replicate here at this scale. So you sort of see this checkered pattern in the ceiling, and that's a example of a Roman temple in France that has the same thing going on. And now for the next bit, we're just going to go and do the same thing on the inside. So this is I'm going to sit this slightly lower. So I'm going to sit it on the chiseled sandstone blocks rather than on the birch. And it's just because it makes it feel a little more, you know, it's quite a big room in here, and it makes it feel a bit more enclosed, which is quite nice. So it feels less overbearing when you walk inside. So, you know, if it's one above, it's just a bit too high, whereas I think this is probably, you know, a decent height. And we're just going to do the same thing, exact same thing that we did at the front, in the front portico. We're going to take birch trapdoors, fill the gaps in, try and keep them placing all in the same direction, so it looks quite nice. And you'll get this nice pattern in the ceiling, which I think looks quite nice. Or you can use different trapdoors, different slabs. You can do a different colour. You could do like bricks and mangrove or all sorts of stuff if you want a different colour. And in the back here, I'm just going to quickly fill in. So I'm going to take some mangrove fences. I quite like the red ones. You can use acacia, really whatever, as it legs out. And that's just going to fill in the window. Now what I'm going to start doing here is I'm going to start building the base of the statue. So before you do anything else, start building this. Base of the statue, you're going to have to place stairs all in opposite directions. That's going to come here as well, all in opposite directions, and you get like a pedestal for your statue. So whatever Roman statue you want to build there, I'm going to build like a random one, but really anything can go on top of that. So in this step, we're going to now start building the pediment, so the roof front bit. So we're just going to take some red terracotta, and we're going to place that there. Pretty sure the Romans called this the tympanum. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But the whole area would be called the pediment. And we're going to have a red bit behind. And now we're going to have a raking cornice. So this is going to be upside down quartz stairs with quartz slabs. And we're going to place them 2 apart so we can put stairs right next to each other and on the end. So if you just follow what I'm doing here, this is how we're going to build our cornice. And you see on the bottom there. Now on the front, we're going to finish off the pediment by then building the roof profile. So typically Roman roof profiles would have been about 22 degrees, if I'm right. I'd have to double check that, but from memory it's about 22 degrees. Now in Minecraft you can't exactly get that, but this is the best way that the best angle at this scale. So a hard thing about drawing Roman temples, or even like just building them in Minecraft, it's Roman and Greek temples are very much about proportions and how things fit together, even the heights and widths and depths. And this is kind of the best angle you can get at this scale. Just with slabs, just with normal quartz slabs, and that's going up. Now we're going to do the same thing, so we're going to put the cornice on the side. So we're going to leave 2 gap, and then slab, 2 gap, slab. And then we're going to place stairs upside down, like so, on the back of these. So you get that really cool looking texture, like so. And we'll just replicate this again on the other side. Again, with just some upside down smooth quartz stairs. And there we go, that's that bit for this step. So the next bit we're going to be doing is we're just going to be finishing off the roof. and then adding some statues and some details on top of our pediment. So we're just going to be adding another layer of quartz slabs to the back of here. And on the other side as well, so we want to keep it symmetrical. And then what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to take a block of iron. Now this could be something that is a similar colour, just with a different texture. The block of iron looks quite good. I saw this idea in a couple of the Annihilator 2's builds. It's just a different colour, but it's got a slightly different texture. And then the thing is with the roof is it's a bit of a fiddly one. So you want to try and place stairs back to back. So I think, you know, it gets a bit fiddly here. That'll do for now, I think. I'm trying to get it to place in the corner, but it's not doing it. But anyway, we'll just go take this all the way across as you would normally with a roof. And we're going to replicate it on the other side. But then to try and replicate like the tiles that come across, we're going to just place them flat like this and just completely fill it in. Now, the slope doesn't match the slope of the pediment on the front, but it gives this illusion when you look at the front, because you don't really see this this much, where you don't see the white profile of the quartz. It still makes it look like it's got that shallower profile. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Now obviously what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take some bricks. So we're going to have to take some bricks and just fill in the back of all of these gaps. So you could do this before. Sometimes it's just better to do it afterwards because you can exactly see where the gaps are. I mean, arguably it would be more accurate, or you avoid mistakes a bit more if you place it on the back. So yeah, just double checking that this is correct. So yeah, and then you can just place it on the back here as well. And we're just going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Just take some brick stairs. Filling in this gap. And on the very bottom as well. There we go. Now for the last little steps, we've got a couple of little bits to add on the roof. So what we're going to do is going to take some polished deep slate walls and grow fences. So these are going to sit right on top. And these are going to be our decoration details at the apex of our roof. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it like a darker button. So right on the front here of the pediment, we're going to just add a bit of texture. I mean, you wouldn't have had such intricate reliefs of the statues and sort of things like you have on the Parthenon and on Roman temples, but you would have still had some paintings or something like that. And then here I'm just adding an upside down stair. It looks a little bit like a statue of like a snake or a person or something. From the front it makes it look quite cool, but you could also add like, you could add armor stands on here, you could add player heads, all sorts of stuff. Now, for just the last few steps, I mean, I'm going to add some campfires on top of our anvils, so these are all little cauldrons. And then I'm just going to go and randomly place like leaves and bits around. I mean, we've got some trapdoors to fill in here. Place some leaves outside. And then on the inside, I'm going to try and make like some sort of statue. It's a very small area to make a statue in, so it can like end up quite badly. And like there are people that are much better at building statues of this sort of stuff than me. So I'm probably not like the best example to follow for statues. So I'm trying to make some sort of like, I've seen a couple of statues of like Minerva or some of the more like Venus, the female Roman goddesses. I don't know, that kind of looks a bit weird. But anyway, it does the job. And then in the corners, I'm just going to put some pots, stick some leaves in the pots, so you got some plants, whack some candles everywhere, so people come here for their offerings or whatnot. People are lighting candles in the temple. And it also provides a bit of light, so rather than having like, you know, lamps that can be a bit invasive or torches that look a bit, you know, dodgy sometimes, it's a nice way to add it. So you could just really add whatever you want in here. What could be offered to the god or goddess of your town. And then really, yeah, just add a few carpets, extra leaves. It's really about just making it feel a bit lived in. So like people come in here and they just chuck stuff in there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe add some candles outside. I mean, maybe don't need to light them. But you get the idea. It's the sort of stuff that you would add. Lots of pots, candles, all sorts of things. And then, yeah, there we have it. So that has been our first small Roman temple. I know we've been waiting to do this for a while, and lots of you have been requesting it, but I really hope you've enjoyed it. Really hope you enjoy the build. Planning to do some bigger ones, so bigger Roman temples, some bigger Greek temples in the future. But yeah, let me know what sorts of things you want me to build next. Make sure to like and subscribe. And a big thank you to all those who have been tuning in, who are new viewers, subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.